That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Comic Reviews. I'm Sid Part 2, and we have a pretty big stack to get through today, as you can see by the thumbnail and the stack of comics that I'm holding up right now. So anyway, let's go ahead and get right into it. We're going to start off with Star Trek, Green Lantern, the Spectrum War, number 3 of 6, the crossover event of 2015. So now we're finally getting the idea of what's going on. They call it the Last Light. So that's our MacGuffin that's getting these universes to cross. And it's actually kind of interesting the way they set it up, because they go that this idea is that Necron, who was the villain at the end of Blackest Night, came to the realization that sheer numbers is all he really needs to overwhelm the Lantern Corps. I'm not quite sure how well that meshes with the end of Blackest Night. I'd have to go back and reread that, and especially with Kyle Rayner running around as a White Lantern and creating his own Corps. But let's just say that this is not mainline DC Universe, but kind of just like an offshoot of that in some way, shape, or form. But anyway, so we're getting this Last Light that as soon as the universe, like Necron was threatening the universe, and Gantet was able to remove all of the all the surviving lanterns, which is very few, basically the big names, from each corps, and so he was able to take them to a parallel universe, which is the Star Trek universe, and in order to do that, he had to have all the rings. He was able to take all the rings and transport everyone else. That's why we have these extra rings that are there along with our main cast, as it were. Chekhov with the jetpack is adorable. Construct jetpack, I should say. That's adorable. So anyway, so that is really what this issue is we're finally getting the reason that this is all happening. But what's so fresh about that is it's a big plot point of the issue, and not a lot else happens this issue, like plot-wise, or at least major plot-wise. There's still some stuff being set up, but it's not like this overbearing thing where we gotta figure out how to stop or get back, or blah blah blah. It's just like, yep, here's the situation, this is what it's like. And what's fun about these crossovers is the character interaction. And that's still the majority of what we're getting right now, is just the character interaction. Misleading cover. Larfleeze and Spock do not fight. Be cool if they did. That might be coming, who knows. But anyway, so we start out with the exposition, and then we just kind of get all these different characters interacting. We get Atrocitus shows up and starts mentoring this Red Lantern, and Sinestro is or the Romulan Princeps, I think they call him. The Romulan Princeps removes his Senate and creates a construct army to be his Senate, which is clever. And then Larfleeze shows up, and they're going to have some kind of duking out, I imagine. Then Sinestro just toys with Chang, whatever. Sinestro just kind of toys around with Chang as he fights him, or just kind of behavior from Sinestro, which is good stuff. And then Carol and St. Walker show up. He'd apparently been attacked, and then the Atrocitus and this new Red Lantern guy destroy the USS Constellation. USS Constellation, which is, I mean, that's cool. Once again, Star Trek stands no chance against the Green Lantern universe. Or the Green Lantern fighting style. Anyway, so Necron's in the universe, and we get this, this is a really cool stinger. Oh man, I love stuff like that. So, I don't know if I want to, if I gotta spoil everything else in the issue. So Necron shows up, and he starts rebuilding Vulcan. It's really cool. I don't quite know how, because Vulcan was sucked into a black hole at its core, but it's really clever nonetheless. He's a Necron. He has the power of life and death. They were obviously dead, so maybe he's bringing it out of, reshaping the atoms or something. I don't know. It's cool though. It's a really fun crossover, and that's really all that can be said about it. It's a lot of fun. It's really enjoyable. Definitely worth picking up. It's a great thing to have in a book. Batman number 44. I enjoyed this more than I have most of Scott Snyder's Batman. This is probably right up there with 0 Year, I guess. I still just really don't like the way in which this guy writes Batman. It's like Batman just makes too many mistakes the way Scott Snyder writes him, and it drives me nuts. He's just constantly screwing up and getting kind of laughed at. And so I was disappointed by that. But one thing I liked about it, to one effect or another, is Batman at the end learns this lesson that he has to be there for the people, not just save them. He has to be there to help them, to listen to their problems and try to understand what's going on with them so that he can save them from danger. Then it's got some pretty good art. Like, this is a poster right here. Doesn't show up incredibly well on camera, but just the cityscape with Batman there, and then all the words of these newspapers. That's really cool. Great art in that. Azzarello is writing this? Maybe that's why I enjoyed it. Let me get to the credits page here. I don't really like Azzarello's Batman either, except for, what was it? Flashpoint. It's the only time I really cared for him. Story by Scott Snyder, written by Scott Snyder and Brian Azzarello. So yeah, I don't like the plot, but I like some of the way in which it's written, so that kind of says something. It's okay. If you like Scott Snyder's Batman, you'll like it. If you don't, you probably won't. It's not the worst thing Scott Snyder's written under the Batman thing. It's kind of weird the way it's placed as far as issues are coming out. That we got Bruce Wayne Batman story that takes place right after 0 Year, and we're kind of still right in the middle of this whole thing with Gordon being Batman. And in the end, it connects to that, and that the villain of the issue is the seed guy who's giving out, vials with superpowers in them. So I guess that kind of works, but I don't know. It seems like a bit of a stretch to put that in there, because you couldn't have had anything, but there are a lot of other ways to get to the point where you started in this book without him. So it kind of feels like it's just been a couple months since we've had Bruce Wayne Batman, so we're putting Bruce Wayne Batman back out. I don't know. Only reason I'm buying Batman right now is because I cannot imagine going to the comic store and not buying Batman. But man, Scott Snyder's making it difficult for me. Action Comics number 44. I feel like I've missed something, because all these covers for the Superman books have had like justice and truth and alienation and lies. I don't know exactly what's going on with that. So we're continuing on with these shadow monster things, and Superman kind of standing up for the people and trying to, be a member of the community, socialist Superman. Which is what made me want to pick it up, and it's still really cool. It's great to see Superman acting in that way. I just wish we'd had kind of that grounded Superman being a champion for the people for a couple issues before we got into all this alien supernatural stuff. I think that could have been interesting as well. But it's Superman. It's it's supposed to be high action, crazy thrills, and maybe that the whole social justice thing wouldn't be the best for him. It's a cool page. That's it. I don't like bald Superman. That's my one complaint with this. Is I don't like this. Like, Scott Snyder had Bruce Wayne shave his head, and so now everyone has to shave their heads in DC. I feel really bad for Wonder Woman, I guess. That's a joke. She's not actually shaving her head, for people wondering, but just, I don't know. It's that effect. So we've got kind of this, not bald, but what do you call it? There's a word for that style of haircut, or it's just really, really short. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's okay. Lee, the character that was helping with the organize the protests and stuff, she seems to be getting superpowers from the Shadow People, and I think we're gonna have kind of like a Venom thing, wherein she's able to control it sometimes, but other times it takes control of her, but I don't know yet. She used it to save some people, though. That was the cool part. It's alright. Again, I guess I was just hoping for something a lot different than what we're getting right now. So I imagine what's going on right now is for people that were picking up action, let's just say, for the sake of argument, since the beginning, since Grant Morrison started. Grant Morrison's stuff was really good, and then I don't know how the quality was. I'm going to assume okay. And then we're getting this, so I imagine it's a quality boost, but for someone just picking it up, it's and had kind of different expectations for it, it's just kind of alright for right now. I'm wondering what's going on with Lois Lane, because she's the one that revealed Clark's identity, and I'm sure it's been dealt with somewhere, but I would like to be able to find, since it's such a big part of this book, I'd like to know, and since this seems to be a good jumping on point, I would like to know what exactly her and Clark's relationship is right now. Because I know they're not dating or anything like that, but she revealed his identity to the world, so I'm curious how he feels about her right now, and how she feels about having done that, and seeing what it's caused. There's also kind of this weird parallel to I guess the way actual people have reacted to Man of Steel, and that there's all this talk about, Superman's an alien and it's his fault that all this destruction and stuff in our neighborhoods has happened anyway, so we shouldn't be happy about having him around, blah, blah, blah. And that's interesting. I'm more just kind of okay with this. I'm not loving it or hating it at all. It's got a lot of good in it, though. It's got a lot of potential, I think, is the main thing. I guess I just wanted it to start a little more grounded and then get kind of out there. And it kind of got, one issue of being grounded, capitalizing on a lot of unrest that's been going on lately, and then immediately got out there, and that's not exactly what I was hoping to see. Darth Vader, number 9. So we continue Darth Vader's dance with the devil in the pale moonlight. No, we continue Darth Vader's dance around... excuse me. Dance around getting caught for stealing seized credits from the Empire. There are a lot of ads in this book. This was just an alright issue. It's building this like intrigue, kind of shifty politics thing of everyone having their own agenda, which is really interesting, and it's fun, and it's kind of this slow churning, building, bubbling kind of plot that's getting more complex as it goes, and there's deceptions to cover up. There's things going on to cover up deceptions and deceptions within deceptions and stuff like that. And it's really interesting, and no one can trust anyone, and everyone's watching their back, and that's really fun. But there's not a lot to say about it issue to issue. It's definitely building, it's definitely driving, but it's certainly, and it's not that it's not entertaining or fun to read, it's just, there's not a lot for me to say. It's that kind of plot where I actually don't want to talk about it too much. So I don't want to summarize the plot for you. And if you haven't read it, there's not much for me to say. And even if you have read it, though, the most I can really say is shit's getting, complicated. But not in a bad way or anything. I've seen that these twins, these, like cyber Jedi, I'm going to call them, are really friggin' mad dogs, just need to be put on a leash, and they don't have one right now. And so, like, the old ways of getting information and stuff is not working out for them. Like, they straight up kill an informant. Like, the guy that's with Vader here, just hands an informant over to him after he's done questioning the guy. And instead of using this guy for their own investigation, they just lightsaber his ass. And Vader really doesn't like these two characters, these twins. He kind of considers them like a perversion, which is neat. I'd love to hear James Earl Jones voice some of these lines, because it's really cool. Alright, so the informant says, I let me think. And Vader goes, you are thinking that you merely need to delay for a few minutes. Then they will be gone, and you can feed us your pitiful deceptions. Know this: the cowl youths will leave. I will remain. And then the guy says something. Vader says, a lie. And then the guy says something else. It's intense moment. Truth. Like, I can feel the writer really does get how to write Vader and make it mesh with the Anakin we saw in the prequels. More the Clone Wars Anakin than the straight whiny bitch prequels Anakin, but still. There's elements of all three, and Vader obviously being the dominant personality, and that just cold badassness that Vader has coming in. And that's really cool to see. Absolutely loving this book, though. It's tons of fun to read. And then there's a really weird kind of stinger at the end, to be continued moment. I'm not going to say what it is, because I don't really know how to take it. But, hey. Oddly enough, this is actually making me want to rewatch the prequels. Which most things don't do. Kind of a little bit. Not a lot, just kind of a little bit. So. This was a lot of fun. Deadpool Vs Thanos #1. I don't know how many issues this could possibly go on for, but this is just silly. There's a guy in a chicken costume who does zombie voodoo. Thanos and Deadpool are fighting, and Thanos removes Deadpool's immortality, and also all of the immortality, every single person is immortal, except for Deadpool, apparently. Every single person in the universe has now become immortal. Death is unable to do her job. So we got kind of like a Torchwood Miracle Day situation going on right now. And Deadpool also has a porn stash. Porn stash Deadpool. So, buy it for that alone. No, but this is just really silly. Like, there's this line at the beginning that cracked me the hell up. This guy's talking on the phone, and it's comic book exposition, and then he gets, like, choked out, and you hear Deadpool go, "Oh yeah, got him right in the middle of exposition. Figure out the plot now, Wednesday Warriors." Great stuff. And so it is really just silly Deadpool fun stuff right now, and that's cool. I enjoy that stuff quite a bit when Deadpool's just being a clown. And going around and fighting Thanos and all this craziness. And then there's the fourth wall breaking stuff, and he goes, "Come on, double down dog. I'm an unkillable mutant merc who regularly outsells Superman. He's a violet dork who collects shiny rocks and whose brother looks like the love child result of Spock roofing a Wolverine. Spock roofing Wolverine." I cannot talk today. It's the perfect time to do videos. And yeah, this guy in the chicken suit, whose name I don't know, Deadpool just keeps making fun of him, calling him KFC names. Genius. And so Deadpool's trying to save Death because someone's cut her off. And it's just fun. And then at the end, instead of Deadpool vs Thanos, it's Deadpool and Thanos. Team up! So this is just a really fun idea for a book. Really enjoyable stuff. Can't get enough of this. This is great. I'm gonna pick this up because it's just fun stuff. Anyway, so now we have The Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, number 5. Almost 6 months of this. Just reboot your universe, Marvel. No, this is a really good issue, but I'm going to start out with a complaint because this shit was annoying. So the biggest problem you're always going to have in comic books is every so often you're going to get a 2-page spread where it goes panels across the page. And you're going to screw up and not know to, keep reading left to right as opposed to left, right, down, left, right, down, left, right. And in this issue, they put this stupid poster ad in between the right smack in the middle of a 2-page spread panel layout thing. That's stupid. That you can't say that wasn't on purpose. It's just annoying. It's not like a single page ad. It's like a whole poster thing with pregnant Spider-Woman. I don't know what's going on with that. I really don't know why Spider-Woman's pregnant. Good for her. Congratulations, Mazel Tov. But anyway, it's like, that is so fucking frustrating. And it's even worse because it's right at the middle of like a really good, important moment in the book. Man. So the plot of the issue is Regent has Peter Parker's spider sense. The Resistance breaks in and tries to defeat him. They're unable to because he has spider sense now, so he's able to predict when someone's going to hit him. So Mary Jane and Annie break in, and they're able to start taking all these heroes that he needs offline and thus take away his powers. And in the process, that wakes up Peter Parker, and he's able to break out of his tank and go fight him. And then they have this brawl on the streets, and Annie and Mary Jane get involved in it. And they take away Regent's powers. It's weird. I don't know how. I'm not sure how Regent's suit works. They take away his powers, but he's able to grab Annie, and Peter talks his way up to him. and is able to punch him in the throat. Or no, mouth. Punch him in the mouth really hard. And so he's able to defeat the villain who is holding his daughter without having to kill him. And Mary Jane actually says to him at the end, "Peter, I have to know, if our daughter were in real danger, would you have killed him?" And he just doesn't say anything to her. It's this nice, quiet, kind of not somber, but bittersweet moment, where that question still lingers, because that's what he did to Venom. And so it's this really interesting setup. Not sure what that was. It's this really interesting setup for a world in which Peter Parker has a family now. And it's too bad that's not what's going to continue. At least I don't think that's what they're doing. But it's nice to get to see Peter with a family. I really enjoy that about it. And when I started these reviews with this issue, I mean, I'm not going to lie, I didn't think that One More Day was handled well, that getting rid of the marriage and kind of putting Peter, back to being, a young bachelor superhero thing. I didn't think that was handled well, but I understood the reasoning behind it. I got that part of it. And I understood the mentality of, no other superhero really ages. Batman's still vaguely 30-something. I think. God knows what New 52 did to him. Batman's always kind of been in his 30s or late 20s at the very least, and every other hero's kind of been stuck at the same age, and we rarely see him get old, and if we do, it's like an alternate future or some such shit. Peter Parker is supposed to be the character that ages, and I get the whole coming of age story argument, but at the same time, we don't see any other hero age like that, and so it's kind of, I don't want to say nice, but it's kind of understandable why someone would want Peter to stay that age and be relatable to readers of that age. And so, by making him older, by giving him a family, you're kind of distancing him from that demographic. And while it might be something that the character demands, it is certainly not only problematic in a sales sense, but problematic in that you leave that demographic without someone to identify with. Not look up to, not think, oh, I'm like this guy and I bet I'll be like that when I get older, but to identify with immediately, to see, I am just like him. So I can see the reasoning behind that argument, but it's still nice to see Peter Parker who has gotten older, who has learned and grown, and is still the same person, but is willing to make decisions that aren't easy. It's no longer about learning from your mistakes and making the right decisions in the future. It's about having learned from your mistakes and making the right decisions now. That's what's really interesting about this, and I've quite enjoyed it. It is a really good book. Let me move my microphone. Just realized how far it is away from me. I bet that's a little bit better. But yeah, I thought this was really good. I think this is the last issue. It certainly concludes, but I don't know. They might do something else with the Venom symbiote, because that was a pretty big thing in the first and second issue. So we might see some more resolution with Peter, but I don't think we need it. I don't know if it's slated for another issue or not. We certainly don't need it. I won't cry if I miss the issue or something, because it's perfectly well wrapped up story at this point. Sanitarium number 2. This is a pretty interesting book. Basically, this guy who makes, this artist who makes these really creepy fucking eyeless dolls, is going crazy because his apprentice is poisoning him with this medication that's messing with his head. And so he starts killing people, including the apprentice's wife, I'm assuming. And then he kills himself, and it's the apprentice who's gone crazy now because of him doing that to himself. And that's the plot. That's why this guy is in the sanitarium. There's not a lot to say. It's cool, fun, psychological horror story. And that seems like what most of this book is going to be is psychological horror with a name like Sanitarium. It makes sense that it'd be more human horror, more like it's scary, horrible things that people are capable of, as opposed to, mythical vampires or whatever. This looks like it's entirely meant to be just very grounded, psychological things that people are doing to one another, and the tragedy of that. But it's still really fucking creepy. Just these creepy dolls. Their soulless black eyes. I don't know what else I really have to say about it. I enjoyed this. It's definitely good. It's well written. I don't know, this is a weird thing to say, but the speech balloons are really big. Like, really big text in the speech bubbles. I don't know why. Seems like they're almost wasting space, but if I look at most of the backgrounds, they're primarily just solid colors with maybe like a gradient or some texture look to them. So, might be why. This guy's a fucking idiot. You go get a stick or something, bro. You don't. That's all I have to say about that. But otherwise, it's well handled. It's well put together and everything. It's just a good, solid horror story, and I'm in the mood for horror right now, so that's certainly fun. Like I said, it's a solid horror book. If you're looking for something more supernatural, I'm sure there's a title you can find. I saw Aliens and Vampirella on the shelf this week, and I seriously considered picking it up, but I'm good. If it were Predator and Vampirella, I probably would have. And I'm going to keep an eye out for the Archie vs. Predator trade, just because that looks fucking ridiculous. I saw all the issues coming out, but I couldn't convince myself to buy them, but I'm going to keep an eye out for the trade. God. What the fuck is going on with Archie, man? I've never read an Archie comic. I don't know what exactly that whole thing is. But man, Archer versus Predator would be cool. But Archie versus Predator, it's... what the fuck? It's really fucking weird is what it is. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to trade talk. We got two trades. Going to talk about them as one this week because it is Sandman the Kindly Ones and Sandman the Wake. Yeah, I'm going to talk about it all as one piece. So the Kindly Ones is about the woman from the second volume of the Absolute Editions, at least, that was with the guy who had taken Sandman's name, the Jack Kirby character. It's about her who escaped from the dreaming and had a baby and everything. And Morpheus told her that at one point he will take her child because it was born in dreams and it belongs to him. And so when the child goes missing, she assumes that Morpheus took him, and she goes seeking vengeance, so she looks for the Kindly Ones, the Ravengers, well, she keeps calling them, like, they have a million different names. I don't know what their like they call them a million different things. The Furies, that's it. They keep calling them the Furies and stuff. The ladies, whatever. Yeah, they call them a million different names, but yeah, the Furies is another one. And when she finally encounters them, they tell her, "Oh, we can't help you because we can only take vengeance on someone who's spilt their son's blood," which gets back into the stuff that happened with Orpheus in the trade before the last one. With Morpheus killing his son as an act of mercy. And so they're like, but since he did that, we can. And so they go and attack the dreaming. And they start killing off all the different dreams and attacking all these characters that we've come to know and love, while Morpheus is trying to find a solution to it. And he sent the Corinthian, who he's recreated, to go find the boy, since he wasn't the one that took him, it was Loki that took him. And this all sounds fucking crazy as I describe it, but it's brilliant. Basically, Loki kidnapped the boy because he wanted to try and kill Morpheus, or get Morpheus to kill himself, rather. I'm not even going to bother describing it. It's too complex to describe. But in any case, this ends with Morpheus realizing that he has to take responsibility for his realm. That he doesn't have to, but he chooses to take responsibility for his realm, and that means that he must die. That the only way to save his realm, to save his friends in the dreaming, is for him to die. And the Furies won't kill him, because that's not what they do. They don't kill, they don't revenge, they ravage. They destroy everything you care about until you take your own life. And so that's what he does. He has his sister end his life for him. But the boy that he had the Corinthians save, he gives him an emerald, and the boy becomes Dream of the Endless. Not Morpheus, Dream of the Endless. So it's almost like Doctor Who. It's incredibly like Doctor Who. Basically, Morpheus regenerates, which wraps everything up. We have Morpheus, who, the entire book, even after his capture, when this all started, but throughout the entirety of this book, Morpheus has been very, holier than thou, very pompous and high and mighty in several spots within this book and the last. We have what's the character's name? Mervyn. We have Mervyn claim that, the boss, Morpheus, he just spends too much time around those artsy-fartsy types, those high-minded types. He just needs some good old quality time with me, salt of the earth, working stiff kind of guy. That would straighten him right up. And so we get this very humbling experience for Morpheus throughout that's his character art throughout the entirety of the run up into this. Is that he has to not only talk about being responsible, which he lectures his brother on, about having responsibility to your realm and blah blah blah, about taking care of things, but also just about learning to come down and face things as they are, and not act like you're above everything and everyone else, that you're a part of this world too, that you're gonna eventually pass, as all of us do. And that's where this ends, is Morpheus passes and a new Dream of the Endless is born. He just has all Morpheus's memories and experiences. And he lets his sister take his life, or he has his sister take his life, so that his friends can live without suffering, so that he doesn't have to abandon his realm and responsibilities, but instead can stick with them and help his friends and just be the kind of person he wants to be. So that it's funny because I listened to Nostalgia Chick talk about she did loose canon videos that she's doing. She did Death, and she talked about Death of the Endless that Gaiman created. And she's like, Death, unlike her brother Morpheus, is very calm, very caring, very compassionate. And Morpheus is kind of just a douche that doesn't care at all about people. And that's what the run is about, is he certainly starts that way. And if you're, like, you use the ants or the human ants dynamic. I mean, do you really care what happens to an ant? Do you care about what an ant wants or what kind of life an ant wants to lead? Of course not. And that's how Morpheus feels. But the entirety of the book is him learning that he isn't permanent. He might be called the Endless, but he's not. He has an end. Everything has an end. Nothing can last forever. And it's tragic, it's a moral of a story, it's literature. I keep talking about how annoyed I am that people keep saying things that I think and that I thought were original. Where is it? Here's Gaiman's closing of The Kindly Ones. I still do not know how successful The Kindly Ones was, how close I got, or how far I came from what I set out to say. Still, it's the heaviest of these volumes, and thus, in hardback at least, could undoubtedly be used to stun a burglar, which has always been my definition of real art. Damn it! I'm the one that said that you could kill someone or bludgeon someone to death with the absolute editions. Damn it, Neil Gaiman! Stop taking my ideas, people! Damn it! Stop thinking of them before I think of them, and then writing them down for me to find later after I think of them. It's not okay. It's fucking frustrating is what it is. So anyway, we have we just have this developing story that goes on, and everything happens how it does, and at the end Dream dies, and in doing so he learns his lesson that he's been learning since his capture in the beginning of the book, because before that he was even more higher than now, and the capture was very it was humiliating, but it was also moderating? Humanizing, for lack of a better term. It was a very humanizing, very it took him down a peg. And that's what his capture in the beginning of the volume did. And this shows him that he is subject to all things, just like all men are, just like all creatures are, for lack of a better word. And so he regenerates, and we have a new Dream of the Endless. Which is where this picks up. The Wake. And this is the end of the story. This is where we say goodbye to all these characters and we wrap up most of the loose ends. There's one loose end from the second volume that I don't think got wrapped up, but to be fair, I haven't read all of the stuff Gaiman wrote in this time period, particularly with death, so I'll have to look into that. But yeah, this is essentially the funeral of Morpheus. The recreation of the dreaming as best it can, but some battle scars are still left. The funeral, the wake, everything that goes down. And Matthew the Raven isn't happy about this. He doesn't consider this new guy to really be Morpheus. No, he says he's not. Doesn't consider this new guy to really be Morpheus, but then he goes and he talks at the funeral, and that makes him realize that, yeah, this guy is still the same, but he needs help now. He needs help to figure out what exactly happened to him and how he's going to live with this and how he's going to change because of it. Yeah, but a lot of things are just kind of wrapped up here. We figured out the history between some of these characters, and we just get, like I said, a lot of loose ends taken care of, including some fantastic, like, we get Destruction comes back into it. It's a really somber thing in the first half. It's hard to read at times because you just kind of feel yourself choking up a little bit. You know, this character that you've come to know and love has moved on. And then the last half of the book is just all these different loose ends. So we get a story about Hob, who kind of comes to terms with his continued existence, and he still just doesn't want to die. Even though, like, all the things that he's seen happen and all the friends he's lost along the way, he still wants to go on with it. And he's dating a black girl now, which is really interesting because he used to be a big player in the slave trade. And he talks about having a dream in which Morpheus appeared. And then we have this issue that takes place in one of the soft places in a desert, wherein a Chinese advisor to the Emperor comes across Morpheus, and they have a conversation. He gives him advice, and then he goes out, continues in the soft place, walking through the desert, and crosses a bridge, and then comes into contact with the new Dream of the Endless, it's just a conversation about learning to move on, to live with what you've experienced, what you've had happen to you. And the final issue is about Shakespeare and his final play in service to Morpheus, The Tempest. And it's about the end of Shakespeare's life, or not the end, but the latter half of Shakespeare's life, the last few years of Shakespeare's life, in which he's working on The Tempest, and they create the Guy Fawkes rhyme. Remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot. I see no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. Shakespeare helps create the Guy Fawkes rhyme. I like that. And he finishes the play for Morpheus, and he asks him why he gave him the ability to create these great stories, these everlasting stories. And Morpheus tells him that, I wanted a tale of graceful ends. I wanted a play with a king who drops his books and breaks his staff and leaves his kingdom. About a magician who becomes a man. About a man who turns up his back on magic. But this rough magic I have abjure. I'll break my staff, bury it certain fathoms in the earth, and deeper than did ever plummet sound, I'll drown my book. The idea that Morpheus wanted the ability to walk away from his responsibilities, but he would never allow himself that he found it too important to be the story, the king of stories, as he calls it. I find that incredibly fascinating, and it's incredibly heartbreaking that it is over. I know Gaiman's writing something else with Sandman right now, like a story that he never got to tell, I imagine. I honestly hope it's the new Dream of the Endless, the white-haired one. But I don't know yet. We'll see. I'm going to wait till that's out in trade. I think that comes out in November. I'm going to pick it up then, because I have to be able to read that all at once. I couldn't do it month to month. But Gaiman had something at the end here, which I like. It's the shortest closing I've ever read. And I absolutely loved it. I've always been bad at goodbyes. In many ways, that's what these stories are about. The process of saying goodbye. My electronic address book contains a number of people who have died, friends and colleagues. Their names and their last known addresses are still sitting there. All it would take would be a press of the delete key to remove them. But that would be too final a goodbye, so they remain undeleted. That's something I have experience with. I have my dad's phone number still saved in my phone. And I just can't bring myself to get rid of it. I know I'm never going to call it again. I know I'm never going to see him again or anything like that. But I just can't make myself press that button. And to end a character like this must have been a really hard thing to do. Saying goodbye to anyone permanently is such a difficult thing. And so it's a very touching story. It's a very emotional, very personal story. And all I can really say is thanks, Gaiman. Beautiful work. Absolutely adored it. I'm going to pick up the next book soon. In a month or two. And Neil Gaiman is among my favorite writers. Guy is absolutely brilliant and did some amazing work in the 90s and on, and just a really great writer. And this Sandman is a fantastic series, and it truly is comic book literature. And I don't mean like it is literature of comic books. It is literature that is done in a comic book. And it proves that comic books can be literary, can have value. So not only is it amazing on its own, but it also proves like this stuffy point wrong, and that's fantastic. That's all I've got. Beautiful books. If you consider yourself, a comic book fan, you owe it to yourself to read Sandman. I feel like it's a requirement.